It's my pleasure to introduce a good friend of mine who waves the flag for Scotland up there in Glasgow. He's kindly come on to give us his time and tell us a little bit about himself and why he's excited and what works and don't work. Del, the floor is yours, and thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you very much. Can you all hear me all right? Yeah?
Yeah.
Good, sound. My God, Critch, you sound like a pop star there, the way you're touring the UK. What a busy man. So before I start, SK, I've got a bone to pick with you. So I'm Glaswegian, right? And I'm a guy, we tend to try and be dead strong. We don't cry and stuff like that. And you had me bubbling at Amplify with your story, just what you shared on stage. It was really powerful. Actually, I spoke to Ram afterwards. I phoned him and I said, look, can you pass on my thanks just for you sharing everything there? Because it was very powerful. I'm sure everyone else felt the same way. So no more tears next time, no way. Right, look, I'm going to just share my story, a bit about what I found works, what doesn't work. But before I do that, see if you've got things happening and running well in your business, keep doing what you're doing. Okay? Because if you've got momentum and you're hitting everything you need to hit, just stay focused. Don't try and or don't get this shiny object distracted for anything that I share with you today. All right? Deal? Right, so my background is the car sales. I started January 98, sold cars for 20 years, Honda. Then I moved into the kind of Mercedes-Benz and Audi. I really did actually quite like it. I like talking. I'm a blatherer. So I quite like talking away to folk, but it's 70 hours a week to make good money in cars. My final year was £86,000. That's when I worked in Audi, and there's £100,000 worth of company cars sitting in the driveway. I got an Audi TTS or an S3. I get a new car every 3 months because they're always doing new demonstrators, and I drove S product. My wife always had a Q5 every 3 months, so we had a really good package, or we looked really successful. But as we all know, money with no time is pointless, because if all you're doing is working, then you're just slowly dying. So I'll start with a story. This is true. So in the Christmas of 2008, before I had joined Utility Warehouse, I bought my son, Santa got my son a bike. And so we got my son this bike. Roll on March 2009. So 3 months later, the bike's still sitting in the garage. And one night, my son says to me, he says, Dad, what was the point in Santa getting me that lovely bike if you're never around to teach me how to ride it? And he's even saying it now, I was just like, because you love your kids, you want the best for them, you think you're being successful by working all these hours. But what I was actually doing is I was letting my children down, because although I was bringing in some money to pay the bills, I wasn't there. I would leave the house before they got up, because in the car world, a lot of dealerships, you wouldn't even give you a desk. It was hot desk. So the guys that get in earlier got the desks nearer the front of the showroom, which meant they got to speak to more people through the day. So if you wanted to sell more and make more money, you need to be there earlier to get the good position. And then at the end of the day, you need to stay there longer than anyone else, because most people are at work. And in the weekdays, you need to go and cover work until 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night if you want to hit all the targets and the bells and whistles. So I was letting the kids down. I had 2 kids, I wasn't seeing them. Somebody had offered me Utility Warehouse, and I told them to blow out their arse. Sorry, I told them to, no thanks. I'm not interested in something daft like that. I work for Mercedes-Benz. So I originally told somebody, no, not interested, stick it up your whatever. But when that happened with my son, it just so happened somebody the very next week offered me utility warehouse again. And it made me think. I was like, right, Dale, what am I doing here? I need to build something. I need to have that vision of going through more pain to get the gain further down the line. And I signed up to utility warehouse. So what works in my opinion is being consistent. And I say that as somebody who unfortunately goes through times of inconsistency. Critch will tell you, I am by no means perfect, okay? But I don't give up. I'm not a quitter. I'm just not a quitter. I will not quit. I'll fall, but I'll pick myself back up. So consistency for me, the times I've had the best times in my business is when everyone's been focused on doing basic tasks, simple, easy things, and tools that are duplicatable. So like stuff the company do. I know it might sound daft. I'm telling you to use the stuff the company do, but literally the UW stories are genius because you can wind any message into a story and it can be a sales message, but if it's wound around a story, then it gets past the filter of what's the catch. So I always make sure that my team use tools, and if I see somebody using something that's not a tool, I just give them the, feel, felt, found. I know how you feel, you're being creative, well done, good pat in the back. What I found out is that doesn't work. And it'll just create confusion through the team because it just creates, if sort of one team member sees somebody else doing something different, they then think, oh, right, I'll try this or I'll try that. And all of a sudden, it's like trying to herd cats. Just can't do it. So my advice would be try and stick to really basic, simple things. That are easy to duplicate. Rich said something before he introduced me, and it was more about the customers versus the team building. So I also started, I think personally, what doesn't work. I am a salesman, right? And I'm pretty good as a salesperson. I've always done it. I started door to door when I was 18. The best way to sell something to somebody is to get them to trust you. People don't interact financially with somebody unless they trust. There's got to be trust there. So that's about building rapport with people. But most people aren't sales trained, right? Most of the network is not sales trained, and most of the people that we recruit are not sales trained. So when I joined in my early days, it took me 18 months to hit team leader. But I nearly hit 200 plus club in the same time because I was a salesman. So what I did is I went out, customer centric, customer focused, banging everyone over the head about energy, broadband, mobile. Yeah, that was all we had. 3 services back then: energy, broadband, mobile. Because I thought, well, that's what you do. You go out selling services to people. Because I was sales trained. But here's the problem with that approach. See, when I recruited folk, they saw what I did, tried to do what I did, and when they got objections, because you'll always get objections when you're talking about the services, they couldn't deal with them because they weren't sales trained. And then very quickly, I would lose the new partner as quickly as I'd recruited them because I made it look easy, but I'm doing things that don't actually duplicate. And talking about the services all the time doesn't duplicate really, not if you want to build a proper, strong business. And what I would say is, in my team, what I noticed is a lot of people look at somebody and they say, oh, I lead with the services, or I lead with the opportunity, or oh, I'm going to go and speak to this person about this. And the analogy I came up with, and it might not make any sense, but I say to my team, I'm like, look, our job is not to try and figure out what the person wants. Our job is to show the person what we do and then let the person decide what they need. And it's very much like when we go into Starbucks. When you go into Starbucks, if you were a barista behind the counter, like I'm just going to pick a name. I see Chris Gordon in the screen here. If Chris Gordon walks into Starbucks, and I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, right, I know what he wants. And I'm like, oh, Chris, yeah, you're getting a caramel macchiato with double latte and stuff like that. Because the analogy here being, I'm looking at somebody thinking I'll just offer them the services. because he won't look at the opportunity. So again, the barista's saying, oh, Chris, you want this, you want this. Well, Chris doesn't really know what he wants. What my job to do is let Chris look at the menu above me. He can look through the menu and then he can decide what he wants after having looked at the menu. And I saw so many people in my team driving the customer presentation purely service-based because they've overthought it. They're presuming what the customer would want or be interested in, rather than just saying to the customer, well, here's our menu, which is the presentation, talk them through the menu, which is the presentation, and then get to the end of the menu and say, now that you know all the things that we do, Mr. Customer, what would you like? And you'll see that in your teams. If you talk to your teams, I bet you see partners and that, oh no, I lead with this and I lead with that and I do this for this and oh, I'm speaking to them about, and we need to try and slow down and we need to try and just think, let's show them the menu and let's let the customer decide, especially in this kind of, in this marketplace that we're in. And one thing that I did, as I mentioned at the start, I gathered lots of customers because I was judging. Yeah, I was just judging to folk. And then when was it? So I think from 2009 when I started, right through till 2018, right? So that's what, for 9 years, I was judging, leading with the customer opportunity first. It was all about getting the customer, getting the deal. I'm a salesman. Don't hold that against me. But it was all about getting the customer and getting the deal, right? So I was always talking about the sign up, and I've heard Chris say this. The minute I'd get the sign up, I would maybe fling a DVD at them so that I could say to myself, I've mentioned the opportunity, and I would run out, done, because I was just concerned about the income. But as I've mentioned to you earlier, how that passes on to the team, it's a really bad example. Now, when it came to 2018, I was fed up of being fed up. I was fed up of letting myself down with the business. I was on 200 personal customers and I only had 300 group customers. So I was 2/3 of my whole business. So, and I want you to remember those numbers. 2018, 200 personal, 300 group. And it was at 2018 that I decided to take QW seriously. I wrote a letter to my employer. Remember, I had 86 grand, 100 grand of company cars, really cushy job, right? Well paid, looks great, all that stuff. I wrote a letter of resignation and I handed it to my boss. Then I came home and I told my wife what I had done. So you can imagine what she was like. Now, the reason I did it in that order is I was scared that she would talk me out of it because I was going to take a serious financial hit, proper. And I knew that. But I also believed in Utility Warehouse. I believed in the company. And I'm fortunate enough to have been around in the earlier days when Wayne Coupland and I met Charles Wigder and stuff like that. The people that started this company are good people. They're trustworthy. They will always put us first. Even if we don't feel like at times they are, they will always make decisions based on the long-term success of the company. So 2018, I'm like that, right, I need to get out of this. I'm good money, but I'm stressed. How can I change my life? How can I do that? I thought, right, I'm going to throw the towel in. I'd built the business 200 personal, 300 group. But I'd fallen back in status. I was team leader. I'd got to STL and then through an activity fallen back. So I was team leader. Since we then stopped judging people as a team and being committed to following a simple process, which is by nobody gets to discuss any form of finances or numbers or anything unless they have first test driven UW. And the test drive are the slides, they're the presentation. Because I was one of the top salesmen in cars because I would never talk numbers with a customer unless they'd get their bum in the seat and driven it first. Build the desire. Because if you just talk finances, If the numbers are close, you're not going to get them over the line. But if you build desire first, where they like the sound of everything they're hearing and everything sounds amazing, then when it gets to the numbers, if the numbers are close, because the desire's backing it up first, you'll sign them up. So in 2018, as a team, we had a big meeting and we said, look, I want to, me and like 3 other people, because I was back at TL, nobody was with me. I was just really trying to start afresh. And I said, look, we want to start doing trainings. We would do every second Saturday morning. We'll start with just 3 of us. We'll build it up. And all we're going to do is we're going to train people how to present the slides. That's all we're going to do. Use the tools. We're going to use UW stories. We're going to teach people how to hand out magazines. We're going to teach people how to hand out all the company tools. And we're going to teach them that no customer ever gets to know any form of price until they have seen the slides. And I asked everyone to just buy into that mythology. We went from 2018, 200 personal, 300 group, to today, I've got 350 personal, but my group is 7,700. Sorry, 7,500. Check this afternoon. Now, the personal numbers haven't moved dramatically in the space of, 7 years. But it's 10x group-wise, more than 10x. It went from 300 to 7,500. All that changed was we stuck to a set process. Tools, always the tools first. Use a tool. They don't get to see any sort of numbers until they've seen the slides. Because then at the end of the slides, we can then say, so what do you want to do next? We've shown you how to save money, make money, both or none. What suits you best? And that simple process made a massive difference. And I promise, unless you are actively monitoring your partners, they are letting the customer tell them the process. The tail will be wagging the dog, as we would call it in sales. But the reason that there was a car dealer called Reg Vardy. It got bought over by Pendragon. Reg Vardy was a small Sunderland-based company that went on to be one of the UK's largest car dealers. Sir Peter Vardy got a peerage before he sold off to Pendragon. The reason they came from nothing to the biggest company in the UK was they just had a simple process. No customer could buy a car unless they had driven it first, which made every time you then sat the customer at the desk, they already wanted what you were offering. So therefore you could offer it and be profitable rather than offer it and have to heavily discount it because you were trying to persuade somebody to take it. And I hope you understand the difference in that psychology. It's probably the most important thing that changed my business. So you need to get your team and you need to make sure everyone's singing off the same hymn sheet. I still have team members in my business that are not doing the process because you can't control everybody. But at least you can try and control the ones who want to be coached, the ones that want to learn. Because if you do that with them, it will make a massive impact in your business. So that's what I feel doesn't work. What works is sticking to the simple stuff. And I know it sounds daft, but the reason the company's, performing better than ever in 27 years still going is because unlike other companies, they keep to simple processes rather than going off on all mad tangents, and simplicity works. Now, why am I so excited about UW? This might sound a bit bad. I'm excited because I look at the economy and it's, that word that begins with F and ends in uct. So when I see the economy and I realise what we're able to do to help people, it really motivates me. So many people out there are sitting there, and I saw it selling cars, honestly. You see people with these big cars in their driveway, they are treading water because they were doing it 7 years ago, and the economy is worse now. They've got a fancy Merc in the driveway. They've got a fancy Audi in the driveway. They're probably up to here with their mortgaged and kept taking equity out of their property. They've got monthly payments everywhere, and they're literally treading water. They cannot breathe. and then you might come along and just give them an option. Now, if you go to them and you start trying to offer them discounts on your bills, then that might be a short win, but it's not going to set you free financially. It's why I actually called my team Sack the Boss. I wanted my team to have the mindset, very much like what Chris said before he introduced me, focus on helping people with wealth building, help them get out of the circumstance they're in. If I save somebody £1,000 a year in their energy, that's fantastic, really, really good. You know, they're bundling a total. Do you know what I mean? Help them with all their bills, save them £1,000 a year, fantastic. But if I can show them how to put £1,000 a month in their bank, I've made a friend for life. So again, I do try and, as long as with the presentation, it's about making sure we offer the presentation, but really focusing on the lifestyle of it. It's also why in social media, forgive me, I like social media because you can just press play and talk mince. I don't pay too much on the feedback. I don't get too caught up in the comments and all that kind of stuff. It's irrelevant. Half of it, I wouldn't even read it. You know, it's just, as I think Eric Worre says it, it's just, post and forget. But as long as you're active, then it creates some traction. But just, just be active and make sure your team are being active on these things. But it's the economy that excites me. My life is totally different to what it was in the car game. Most of the people I've offered the business to in cars told me no. They all said, no, stick that up. They just weren't interested. But yet now I know for a fact they'll be looking at me going, God, I can't believe that thing worked out for him. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying that I've got an amazing lifestyle. Like I've got more to do in UW. I've got a lot more to do. The £7,000 minimum for the NGL really motivates me. So that's my focus. But just, the economy does excite me because as I see people are struggling, tech and AI, I'm all over that. I love that. I think that's going to bring a lot of benefits to all of us. Don't be scared of it. Embrace it. You can't make any mistakes. Half the reason I get this boom mic is so as I can sit at my desk and just talk to AI. It's actually what I do. Because I use Grok, but you use what other AIs are available. But you can just talk to them, connect them to a set of speakers. It's like having the smartest guy in the room in your pocket all the time. And I just basically, what's it when you bounce ideas off somebody? I'm just constantly doing that with AI. Constantly, constantly, constantly. Sometimes it makes mistakes, sometimes it doesn't, but because I'm constantly bashing ideas backwards and forwards to help me stay motivated, it really does really help. So please make sure you embrace it. It's like when the mobile phone came round and you were like, oh, I'm not going to use a mobile, and then the internet came round, oh, I'm not going to use the internet. AI's coming, just embrace it. I would definitely use it. And my final tip, sorry if I've went on, my final tip is personally, sign somebody up as a partner, then sign them up as a customer, then support them and teach them to do the same. Because if you do it in that order, you build the duplication through the team. Because if you recruit somebody in that format, they remember that's the way they were recruited. We're customer gathering, dead important. No customers, no business. So we are customer gathering. But we're customer gathering by helping them become their own customer so that when they go out to their network, they're not selling. They're sharing what they did. There's a psychological difference. Real big difference. Nobody likes being sold to. Do any of you get folk like being sold to? No, of course you don't. You put your back up. If the float, you could be looking for double glazing right now, and if the phone rings, cold call, somebody offering you double glazing, you'll tell them to beat it. Nobody likes selling. But partner, recruitment, sign them up afterwards. They remember that was the order. They do the same. The person they recruits do the same. It starts a chain reaction. That's what got me to where I am.
Brilliant. Del, some absolute golden nuggets there, guys. Let's give Del a round of applause. Thank you, Del, for your time.
No problem. Thank you.
And golden nuggets, but simple ones. Simple ones that you can all use. Because where's Del focused? He's focused on using the tools. He's focused on what the company give us. You've heard me say this many times. When you go and see a customer, okay, you put